Picture this. A retired pharmacist, 71, walks a mile every morning, gardens on Saturdays. His coffee hasn't changed in 40 years. Then his daughter reads him one study. He switches one thing in that cup. 3 months later, his doctor pulls him aside and asks, "What did you change?" That story is not rare. That story has a name in the medical literature, and today we're going to talk about it honestly. Here's what I'll show you in the next 15 minutes. The mechanism researchers have measured. The mechanism they haven't. The additive that earned its way into the conversation. And the additive that hasn't. I know what this looks like for a lot of people watching. You wake up. You walk to the kitchen. You pour your cup. Same as yesterday. Same as 10 years ago. Black, or maybe a splash of cream, maybe a spoonful of sugar. And the rest of the morning unfolds. The way it always unfolds. Here's what I need you to hear first. Coffee in 2026 is not what your grandparents drank. The research from the last decade has quietly changed what we know about it. Not because the coffee got better, because we finally measured it properly. Let me name the elephant. The headline you've seen. Stem cells reactivate. Cancer starves. Fat burns. Maybe you've sent it to a friend. Maybe it stayed in your head longer than you'd like to admit. Here's what I'll say straight. Researchers have not published human evidence that a single coffee additive reactivates dormant stem cells. And the phrase cancer starves, when applied to adults over 60 drinking coffee, is not supported by the clinical research I can point you to today. Why am I telling you this up front, before we get to anything else? Because my job on this channel is to translate published research into plain English. And translating means being honest about what's strong, what's soft, and what simply hasn't been shown yet. If we can't agree on that, the next 14 minutes are wasted. Picture someone in their late 60s, retired school teacher, still walks every morning, still drives her grandson to school 2 days a week. She reads the same headline you read. She clicks. She watches. She feels, somewhere in the back of her mind, a flicker of hope. And then she puts a tablespoon of coconut oil into her morning cup, because a stranger on the internet told her to. This is a composite of common cases, not one specific person. And it is the pattern I want us to break today. I'm Jason Ford. On this channel, I review published research on senior health, and I translate it into plain English, what a 15-minute appointment doesn't usually have time to explain. Before we get into it, drop 2 things in the comments: your age and the city or state you're watching from. I read every comment on this channel. It actually changes how I record these videos. Take 5 seconds. Drop it below. I'll wait. Now, the science. I'll start with the part that got the research world talking in the first place. A 2014 study indexed by PubMed, researchers out of France, led by F. Pietrocola, tested what happens inside living tissue when coffee enters the picture. The study was conducted in mice. I want to be clear about that. Mice, not humans. But what they found has shaped how researchers think ever since. In the test, both regular coffee and decaffeinated coffee started a cellular cleanup process called autophagy. That's the technical word. Let me say it in English. Autophagy means your cells tidy up old proteins, damaged parts, components that aren't working anymore. The cell packages them and recycles them into something useful. It's like a spring cleaning. Inside every cell. This matters for seniors because autophagy generally slows with age, according to most cellular biology research. So when researchers say coffee appears to nudge it back on, that's the reason this gets attention, even in mouse models. Now, here's where I want to slow you down. Mouse research is not human research. It's a road sign. It's not a finish line. The 2014 study didn't measure human autophagy in coffee drinkers. Real human trials of coffee-induced autophagy are limited. So when a video headline says, Coffee reactivates your stem cells. That is not what the published 2014 study showed, in the way the headline is using those words. I'll say the next part carefully, because it is the part many of you came for. A 2025 study, indexed by PubMed Central, researchers looked at more than 12,000 older adults and measured what they called frailty, walking speed, grip strength, energy levels, self-rated health. The headline finding, coffee drinkers in the study had lower odds of being classified as frail compared with non-drinkers. The association held even after the researchers adjusted for smoking, income, and other lifestyle factors. If your hand is up, correlation isn't causation. You are right. Stay with me, because the next mechanism is why this signal keeps showing up. The second piece is the polyphenol story. Your morning cup of coffee in many lab measurements contains more polyphenols than a glass of orange juice. Green coffee beans, the unroasted kind, are especially high in a polyphenol called chlorogenic acid, CGA, in the research literature. A 2024 systematic review on PubMed cataloged how this single compound affects glucose metabolism, blood pressure, and inflammation markers in the models tested. The findings were encouraging in animals, mixed in small human studies. Encouraging is not the same as proven. A 2013 randomized placebo-controlled trial, published in PLOS 1 Armors Sirius, researchers in Australia gave subjects either CGA-rich decaffeinated coffee, plain decaf, or a placebo, and measured cognition and mood. CGA, by itself, modestly outperformed the placebo on the attention tests used in the trial. I'll say the word again. Modestly. But it is the kind of finding that makes researchers keep looking. The third mechanism is one you have heard about, time and again. Caffeine. A 2022 study indexed by PubMed looked at how caffeine affects autophagy in vascular smooth muscle cells, the cells that line your arteries. The finding in the test model, caffeine appeared to reduce the proliferation of those cells after vascular injury. I'll say it carefully. In the model. Not in your morning cup. Not at the dose you drink. So before we move on, let me name what is real. Coffee contains compounds that, in published research, are associated with cellular cleanup, modest cognitive effects, and several metabolic markers. That is the honest summary. It is not a finish line. Here's the part most viewers wait for. What do I actually do with my coffee, and what do I bring to my doctor? I'm going to walk you through 5 steps. The first one is the smallest, and the last one is the one almost nobody's talking about. Step 1. Use the conversation at your next visit. Don't apologize for asking. Pull up the 2025 Frailty study, pull up the 2014 autophagy paper, and ask, given my own history, is 2 to 3 cups a day reasonable for me? Or is there a reason I should go lower? Most doctors welcome this. The ones who don't, you might consider switching. You deserve a clinician who reads the same journals you read. Step 2. If you drink it black, keep drinking it black, but lower the temperature. There's a small but real concern in the published literature. Hot beverages above roughly 149 degrees Fahrenheit, repeated daily over many years, have been associated, in some observational studies, with higher rates of esophageal irritation. Let your cup cool for 5 minutes. That's the entire fix. Step 3. Stop adding refined sugar to your first cup of the day. This is the one that surprises people because that single teaspoon feels like a non-event. The first 30 grams of carbohydrate in your morning have the largest impact on your day's glucose curve. Coffee alone barely moves the curve at all. So let the cup be the cup. Save the sweet treat for later, if you want it. Step 4. If you have heard about adding MCT oil, medium-chain triglycerides, to your morning coffee, here's the honest framing. A 2021 study indexed by PubMed looked at caffeine plus MCT and how the combination affects ketone production in the test population. The addition of caffeine appeared to have an additive effect on the ketogenic potential. A separate 2025 study in older adults with cognitive concerns found that long-term MCT intake was associated with improved cognitive scores in the trial population. The evidence is real. The effect size is modest. If you take cholesterol-lowering medication, talk to your doctor before adding concentrated MCT, and the Cleveland Clinic has published clear guidance on why most saturated fat additives, including coconut oil, raise LDL cholesterol in many patients. I want you to bring that specific sentence to your next visit. Step 5, and the one almost nobody's talking about. Stay skeptical of compounds that promise to starve cancer cells in your coffee cup. The metabolic theory is being researched in good faith worldwide. In practice, the clinical evidence in humans over 60, I cannot, in good conscience, point you to a study that supports that headline. Tomorrow's research, maybe. Today's research, no. Now between Step 4 and Step 5, let me give you the shareability moment, because this is the sentence you text to a friend. The Cleveland Clinic, the Mayo Clinic, and the American Heart Association have all published in recent years that coconut oil raises LDL cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol, in many patients. So when a video tells you to put a tablespoon of coconut oil in your morning cup, that is the part you bring up with your doctor, especially if you are on a statin. Now I want to answer the question I know is in your head. Jason, are you saying coffee is medicine? No, I am not. Coffee is the most studied beverage on the planet, period. And most of what has been measured, in the studies I just cited, points in a direction that earns a respectful conversation with your own doctor. Not a prescription, not a miracle, a conversation. Let me name the sources one more time, because you deserve to know where this comes from. The Pietrocola 2014 study on coffee and autophagy, indexed by PubMed under identifier 247696862. The 2025 Frailty study indexed by PubMed Central. The 2024 Chlorogenic Acid Systematic Review on PubMed. The 2013 Camfield trial, published in PLOS1. The 2022 Caffeine and Vascular Autophagy study indexed by PubMed. The 2021 Caffeine and MCT study. The 2025 American Heart Association Newsroom Guidance on Coffee, Caffeine, and Heart Health. And the Cleveland Clinic and Mayo Clinic Guidance on Coconut Oil and LDL Cholesterol. None of those sources is a blog. None of those sources is a podcast host. They're all searchable in 2 clicks on PubMed or the institutional websites. There are situations where you should call your doctor today, not next week. Today. Unexplained chest discomfort after your morning cup. Unintended weight loss you cannot explain. A resting heart rate that has shifted up 10 beats and stayed there for more than a week. New reflux that wakes you at night, more than 2 nights in a row. These are outside the scope of a video like this. They need direct evaluation by someone with access to your labs. Let me run through the core points. Quickly. 1. The 2014 autophagy finding, in mice, opened a line of inquiry that is being followed up in human research today. 2. The 2025 Frailty study in more than 12,000 older adults is the first large signal in humans that the autophagy conversation is worth having at your next visit. 3. Polyphenols, specifically chlorogenic acid, are a real part of the story. Modest in human trials. Encouraging in models. Honest framing? Both. 4. Skeptical caffeine use, meaning 2 to 3 cups, not 5, not 7, is what the bulk of the evidence broadly supports for most adults over 60 in the absence of a specific contraindication. 5. Concentrated additives in coffee, MCT, coconut oil, miracle powders, deserve specific conversations with your doctor, not blind adoption from a video. Here's the whole message in one sentence. Most of what has been measured about your morning cup is real, and a lot more is still being studied. So the smartest move is to bring the published research into the room with your own doctor and decide together. If this helped you see something new, subscribe. Next week, I'm walking through the 7-minute morning lab routine researchers use to track how caffeine actually affects older adults, and why most doctors don't ask the second question. In the comments, I'd love to hear, what did you change in your morning cup after 60? And did it stick? If you have a parent or a spouse or a friend this applies to, this is worth 60 seconds of their time. Send it to them. One more thing before we close. There's a question I haven't answered yet, and it's actually the reason that next week's video about caffeine tracking matters at all. I'll see you there. Take good care of yourselves. I'll see you next week. This video is for general educational and informational purposes only. It is not medical advice and does not create a doctor-patient relationship. Please always consult your own qualified healthcare provider for diagnosis and treatment. Illustrative scenarios in this video are composites. All identifying details have been changed to protect privacy. Any resemblance to a specific individual is unintentional. Portions of this video use AI-assisted voiceover and visuals.